Hello everyone. Today we will see about bug life cycle. In previous session, we have already seen different type of defect resolution. And today we will see about bug life cycle. So this is how the bug life cycle looks. If you see, we will go through the entire cycle. So bug life cycle is basically the different states from which the bug goes through. So from the starting point of the bug and the point where it gets closed. So during test execution, as a tester, whenever the QA team raises a new bug, initially tester finds the defect, he will raise the issue, its status will be new. So whenever new issue is raised, initial status of that issue will be new. So we are at the second step here. Once the status is new and issue is raised by the tester, such issues are reviewed by development or project manager. They will check whether that defect is valid defect. If it is not a valid defect, in that situation, they will reject that bug. They will change the status to rejected. Now, what are those reasons for which the issue can be rejected? If you remember last session, we have discussed some of the resolutions. For example, if it is not in scope. So in that case, they can reject by saying that it is not in the scope and they will defer that. So they will also check if it's a valid defect, yes, and they will check if that issue is it in the scope. If it is yes, then they will check if that issue is already raised. If that issue is already raised, then they will mark it as a duplicate issue. If that issue was not in the scope, then that is not part of a requirement and they will mark that issue as a deferred. So deferred issues are the issues which are basically taken as an enhancement and they will be fixed later on. So there can be some issues which are valid, but since they are not part of the requirement, they will not immediately fix those issues. So they will mark that status as deferred. For such issues, they will mark the status as deferred. And once all the three conditions are matched, for example, if it is a valid defect, it is in the scope and it is not already raised, right? So if it is not already raised, then they will change the status of that issue as accept. That means that bug is accepted by developer and developer will start fixing the code. Developer will start the fixing the code for that issue. He will make some logic change, he will add some code, or he might remove some code as well. So according to the issue and the expected behavior, developer will make some changes in the code. He will verify that issue on his end, and while doing it, he will mark that status as in progress. So status in progress means developer has accepted the issue and he has started working on that issue. That's why the status is in progress for that bug. Once developer completes the code changes, that means the code is fixed. So developer will make the status of that issue as fixed. Developer will provide that issue to tester now. So tester what will do? Tester will retest that code once more time just to verify whether that issue is actually fixed or not. If the test case is pass, then tester will close that issue. So if the issue is now working as per the expected behavior, then tester will close that issue and mark the status of that issue as closed. But if the issue is still not working correctly, if the issue's expected behavior is still not matching, then in that case tester will reopen that issue. So now from here the issue will be reopened and it will be assigned back to the developer. So status will be open again. So developer will again start fixing the code. Developer will change the status of that issue as in progress. He will make the code changes, he will fix the code, and it will change the status to fixed. And now tester will again retest that code. In that case, if it is again pass, then he will mark it as a closed. And if it is not working as expected, then it will reopen that issue. So this cycle will go on unless that issue is actually fixed. So once the issue is fixed, tester will mark that issue as closed, and that test case will be marked as pass. So this part will basically can repeat sometimes depending on the status of the issue. If the issue is fixed, then tester will mark that issue as closed after retesting. But if even after retesting the issue is open, then QA team will open that issue, reopen that issue, and again assign back to the developer. And if you start here at point 4, when we start, so this is basically a bug life cycle. It is known as a bug life cycle. So in the first step, tester finds a defect. He will mark it as a status as a new. So whenever the defect is created very first time, its status automatically marked as a new issue. Development manager will check all the issues. They will analyze the defect and they will provide some resolution type depending on certain scenarios. We have already seen if it's in scope, if it is not in the scope, then it will be deferred. If it is in the scope, but if it is already raised by some other QA, then it will be marked as a duplicate. And in this scenario, if it's a valid defect, sometimes defect is not valid because of some reasons. For example, QA team might have misunderstood some requirement, and that issue was the expected behavior and not, it was not an issue. In that case, they will make its status as rejected. And once if all these three conditions are matching, that means it's a valid defect which is accepted by developer. It's in the scope as well, and it is not raised by any other QA earlier. So in that situation, it will developer accept that issue and he will start working on that issue. He will fix the code. He will change the status of that issue to in progress. And once the code is fixed, he will give it to QA team. Tester will retest that issue. If it is fixed and working properly, then tester will mark it as a closed. And if it is not working correctly, even after retesting, then it will be marked as a reopen. After reopening, it will be assigned back to the developer. Developer will again change the code, again give it to the tester for retesting. Tester will retest it again, and if it is fixed, then tester will close that issue. So this is how the bug life cycle looks, and most of the organization follows this bug life cycle. So thank you for watching this video. In the coming session, we will see some more interesting topic about software testing.